Dun, 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 dun. Welcome to
Why you gotta take my shot? I might as well cut the light off.
Cut. She quit, y'all.
Hey people, it's Kelly of Print Price Slay, and I am here with my good friend Morgan, and this is another episode of
Cookies
In Christ. All right, so if you are not familiar, Cookies in Christ is a live Bible study that Morgan and I have been doing for over a year, and we are in our third book. I know you see Exodus on the screen, but we're going through the Bible chronologically. So we have done Genesis, Job, and now Exodus is what we are in right now. We are in the third episode of Exodus, I believe, second or third. And it is my time to lead. So I was going to do a quick recap. Let me pull up my notes. Okay, so we left off with the Pharaoh having a hard time believing that God is actually God. So he didn't really believe Moses and Aaron and all the plagues. I paused there on purpose because Morgan pokes fun at the way I say the plagues. So all the plagues passed to the people in Egypt. And because he was really stubborn and everything, they got to this last plague, which really affected him and many people in Egypt, which was the death of all the firstborns throughout the land, which included his own son. So this next section, again in our chronological study Bible, is titled Israel is Rescued from Egypt. So it's starting in Exodus 12:31 through 15:20. And it starts off with the Pharaoh having a whole different tune. So he is telling Moses and Aaron to leave, take the Israelites with them to worship the Lord. And of course, you know, this is what they've been asking for this whole time. Like if he had done this earlier, but no. So we're finally getting into like the actual act of the Exodus, which means like mass departure.
Take your hands off the table. Your screen is moving up and down.
Sorry, thank you. I just was like, what does that mean? I saw that before. Was it in sports or something? I don't watch that.
This is like universal sign, like somebody.
Universal? That's not.
Yes, I swear. You can go to.
What does this mean? No.
He said time out. Exactly. You be like time out. Like this is what we do.
I'm not gonna let you do this. This is Bible study. Let us get back to the word. Time out is not in the word.
Girl was like, time out. Now we killing firstborns.
You know when something is going on, you have to speak life into the situation. I love Morgan. So back to my notes. So what was I saying? Okay, so they had the whole Exodus thing. So basically imagine like 200 million people just, you know, folks just leaving like the land. So again, like, yeah, mass Exodus. So the Pharaoh and the Egyptians are encouraging the Israelites to leave. Like they are, this is exactly what God had told them back earlier in Exodus, which we already covered, like Exodus in chapter 6. So God caused the Egyptians to look favorably upon the Israelites. So they started giving up their clothes, silver, gold, basically stripping themselves of their wealth and giving that, you know, to the Israelites. They left so fast. They didn't even bake any bread, but they did grab something that I thought was very interesting, and I will share that at the end. I was like, so they grabbed that, but they didn't grab no bread. But they basically left. Okay. And this was about, 400 plus years of them going through like this harsh time and then finally leaving. So God gave Aaron and Moses instructions for this festival of Passover. So no outsiders, like it's whole rules. Okay. So no outsiders were allowed to partake in the food. Each Passover lamb had to be eaten in one house. Men had to be circumcised, and it couldn't be any meat carried outside. So this was not like a cookout type of thing. You was cooking in type thing. You eating inside. They were not to break any bones, and the whole community had to celebrate Passover festival. So like a whole block party type of situation had to take place, which is nice celebration for great events that had happened. So then the Lord told Moses to dedicate the firstborn of both people and animal to him. He announced that the Passover festival is something that should be celebrated annually, in their land, and it is a 7-day feast. Bread must be made without yeast, and they are to share their understanding with the youth. So let the children know about what God has done for their people. So after all of this, on the way to leave Egypt, God took them on a detour to avoid the Philistine territory. So this was that was the shortest route, but it had the most smoke. So God knew his people. God basically said, I'm quoting him. Hold on a second. He said that if the people are faced with a battle, they might change their minds and return to Egypt. So God took them the long way. So he took them through the wilderness, which was towards the Red Sea. Most of us know where this is heading. Okay, so now the way God guided them, I thought was very beautiful. It's real legit. Like he guided them with the pillars of clouds and by day, and then fire by night. So they was allowed to travel like at all times. And I love me some clouds, so I thought that was really really nice. Probably a beautiful scene to see. So God tells Moses to camp out in the path of Pharaoh to confuse him. So God explained that he was going to harden Pharaoh's heart yet again, because he said that before doing all of the plagues. Um, and God had a plan in order to display his glory. And he let Moses in on that plan, and Moses actually listened this time, like as told, and did what he was told. So of course, we all figured that Pharaoh had a change of heart and he pursued the Israelites just as God said he would. And Pharaoh got like the best of his people, like 600 people in his camp, to go after the Israelites. But I don't know if Moses didn't tell the Israelites what God said, but their fear basically became stronger than their faith, and they got real shook. They started talking out the side of their neck about, why did you bring us here? We about to die we're in the wilderness. Didn't we tell you this was about to happen? And a whole bunch of other stuff, like some more. Moses tried to shut out all of the doubt, and reassure them that they don't need to be afraid. He asked them to do what I felt was like the hardest thing that you can do in your time of struggle and fear, and that was to wait. He told them to wait, stand, be still, and watch the Lord. Hard. So God speaks up. I thought that was really interesting. God speaks up and is like, "Why y'all crying? Move! Like, stop all that. Like, it's time to go." So Moses was to stick out his staff and part the Red Sea, and the Israelites would have walked through. They were guided again by the cloud and fire to guide them through. And the Egyptians followed, but God kind of twisted their chariot wheels and made it real difficult for them to drive. In this, they discovered, oh wow, look, the Lord is fighting for them. And which they tried to like turn away, but God wasn't about that. So it was too late. He instructed Moses to kind of, close the sea, and it swallowed them up. None of them survived. So once again, God showed the Israelites that he is all powerful. They were in awe. They sang praise and worship songs that lasted 21 verses. It was a nice little piece of the Bible. But later on, we're going to see that they kind of changed their tune. So that is the overall of what happened in that part of the Bible. And after doing the overview, Morgan and I go back and pick out like specific notes that were like cookie crumbs, that we want to touch on. So Morgan, what were some of your notes?
A note that I didn't have that you just illuminated for me. And I don't know, sometimes I think I'm not as smart as I really am, but sometimes the obvious thing is not the most obvious thing. It did not click that the reason why it's called Exodus is because they left Egypt. Like he was like mass Exodus, and I was like, the name of the book. Yes, like you really just blew my mind over here. So people probably saw it on screen. I was like,
I was like, and at 5:21.
basically. So yeah, mind blown. Somebody in the comments, please write that they also made that correlation and that they never put that together before, so I don't feel alone. If not, there is no shame. I am illuminated.
That's what we doing. We learning right here.
I'm not ashamed. I mean, like I said, sometimes it's not there. Let's see. Flipping back. I when when,
What?
when the Pharaoh kicked the people out, I just I just imagine him being like, better like just go, leave, leave.
Like Martin.
Yeah, why you still here? Get out. You, your people, your piglets, anything, just go. Like, and I'm sure a lot of that, at the time was grief because he had just lost his son.
Son.
And it just made me think about how sometimes we say things we don't mean when we are in grief. That's what I had. No, not that I'm sticking up
Oh.
for Pharaoh, but that was a thought that I had. Like, saying things that we don't mean just in the trauma of grief and then going back on it.
Because he
Granted,
definitely did that.
yeah, because he did go back on it, but then it also leads me to my next note was the need for people to have revenge and always have the upper hand and not just letting things lie. Like when you feel like somebody got the best of you and now you're like, oh no, that's not going to be my story. They're not going to play me. And then you try to pursue and then you end up in a worse situation. Like he could have just been in Egypt licking his little wounds, but no, now he dead in the Red Sea. Him and the homies. Like, why? Didn't have to be this way. You just would have took it that way. So that was my first notes.
Hold on. I wanted to share with that when I had referenced Exodus 6. That's when the Lord told Moses, now you will see what I will do to Pharaoh. When he feels my force, and when he feels the force of my strong hand, he will let the people go. In fact, he will force them to leave his land. And I was like, okay, so it happened. That's all. It was Exodus 6:1. But go ahead, your next note.
Then the instructions for Passover. At first, like when I first read the line when he was like, "No new friends," I was like, "Dang, that's cool. Why can't no strangers participate?" But then
Now
he
for
went
them.
on to be like, it wasn't just no strangers. He was like, if they passing through, you better acclimate them. Like,
When
get
you say, hey, you're going to have to
get them in line. Tell them not this week.
you have to get circumcised and some
Yeah,
more before you get invited to this cookout. Well, cook in.
absolutely not. Um, my question, I did have a question. Um, how did they buy back their firstborn? Because it said you can buy back your donkey with a lamb or a young goat, but how are they supposed to buy back their child? In 13:13, it says the firstborn donkey can be bought back from the Lord by presenting a lamb or a young goat in its place. But I didn't see where they said what they used to buy back their sons with. And it wasn't even
That
optional.
was,
He was like, you have to buy back your son.
yeah, I thought that was because dedication as in sacrifice, but not necessarily like human sacrifice. So I was thinking maybe the circumcision it had to happen or something like that. Like that's what I was thinking.
No, because it said every year. It said dedicate to me every year the firstborn.
Well, you ain't got a firstborn.
I mean, so
After
every year your firstborn is always your firstborn.
Oh yeah. Hold on. So it says on 158. Okay, so this ritual served three main purposes. So these are the purposes of it. So it
Yeah,
was
no, I read
remind
them all.
people
That's what
how.
I'm saying. In the book, in the text, it talks about how they buy back the different types of meat, but I didn't really read, and I probably should have looked it up.
Hold on. Let me read this. I don't think this will answer your question, but I think this will give additional insight to some people. So it's saying that what did it mean by buyback every firstborn son? Then it goes into because God saved the lives of the firstborn, he had rightful claim to them. But God commanded the Israelites to buy back their sons. And it was a ritual that served three main purposes. I don't know what the ritual is, but the three main purposes was that one, it was a reminder to the people of how God had spared their son's life from death and freed them from slavery. And two, it showed God's high respect for human life in contrast with pagan gods who actually do ask for a human sacrifice. That's not what God is asking for. And three, it looked forward to the day when Jesus Christ will buy back and pay for our sins. but it doesn't explain what that ritual was. But we can assume that it's not, I guess it's not the circumcision, because it's not like you're going to cut the kid every time. You cut them when they first born, but it must be, it's something, some kind of ritual. But so I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's song and dance. I don't know if it's the burning of that first animal with the son present. But good question. I didn't even think to even try to figure out what the ritual was. Okay.
So I had that question. And then I mean, I think that I know that the Jewish community still participates in Passover. So I honestly, like, in thinking about how long ago this was and that the tradition is still alive, like today, I think that that's super cool that people have still considered this to be, a sacred time, and that they still remember what they went through. And I kind of, it kind of makes me, not that I want to necessarily be a Jew or anything like that, but us, and being people of color separated from our ancestors going through a similar slavery story, we don't really have like documented rituals about God bringing us out of those things. And I think it would be cool to, like, I mean, we do got some soul food, but I don't think that the Lord was getting down over the chitlins
What was it? Juneteenth.
in celebration. But I
Juneteenth
mean, that's a national
celebration, but I don't think it's
you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, it's not a like a unified thing
that
that we do.
everybody, you know what I'm saying, participates, and this has gone on from generation to generation. So I just thought that that was unique, and also made me wish that, not that I'm not jealous, but I wish that every people who God has delivered from like some type of oppression, because they're
This is, I don't know what happened. I don't, let me see if I can get this. This last time I can tell audio.
I'm back.
Mm-mm.
You can't see me?
No, I see you. I'm just trying to make sure that the
Yeah.
audio is good, because last time when you left, I was talking and it sounded like I was straight under the sea. And I was like, oh no, not again.
Mm.
Let me see.
Can't see me?
Yeah. No, I see you. I'm just trying to make sure that the all right, it's working.
Oh yeah. Some type of ritual, God given instruction. So I just thought that that was cool. Like the Passover. This was 1800 BC. We are now in the year 2022, and Passover is still alive. Like, that's thousands of years, y'all. Like, it wasn't last year. It's
Mhm.
thousands of years that these people have managed to abide by these rules and these rituals and keep the tradition going. Now, I will say, due to modern times, I don't know if they're still out there sacrificing firstborn donkeys and things of that nature. Maybe we should talk to someone who's Jewish and get more information about how they recognize
I
this.
know they do the unleavened bread,
Yeah, they
definitely.
do the unleavened bread, they do circumcision. I don't know if they're still sacrificing animals, firstborn animals, but I feel like the essence of what they were instructed to do is still here, even though we have transitioned from the days where we cattle and herd animals and things of that nature. So
Some of us. Okay. Hold on. I have a there is a question that is proposed on our study Bible, that is, I have on one page 158, and it says it's talking about the festival of unleavened bread, and it says, what do you, and remember it said the people are marked and they have like the little squares and all other stuff on their foreheads and on their hands, and it says, what do you do that marks you as a follower of Christ? Well, not Christ. God. But yeah, Christ. Um, the way you raise your children, demonstrate love for others, show concern for the poor, live in devotion to God. These actions will leave visible marks for all to see. While national groups are marked by customs and traditions, Christians are marked by loving one another. So I made a list of what marks me as a follower of God. It's just on a little post-it note. So I thought that was a nice thing to just reflect on and write. If you had a little list that you can write on what makes you like what outwardly makes you a follower of God. My list was just the way I speak positively, speaking life into people and myself, the way I love on people, my dedication, how I raise my kids, the way I treat others, and my giving, my lifestyle, my ministry, my posts on social media, and my prayer life. So those are some of my ways. I think your own list can go on as well, but I thought that was nice. So I was like, let me write a little list based on that question. Um, I think that's all the notes that I had from 158. Do you have any notes on page 159, which is Exodus 13?
Yeah. Just a quick note about when they were being led by the pillar of the cloud and the pillar of fire. I was like, how helpful is that in like lighting your path through your different battles when you feel lost and you don't know which way to go? And to literally have a physical manifestation of God, like this way, like come this way. And I was like, I want that. Like when people ask for signs, that's what we be asking for. And we out here like, was that a sign? Like we trying to figure it out, and this nation of people literally had a fire flickering in front of them. Like, come on, like, come on.
This is your path.
Yeah,
Success this way.
you like,
I thought about that, and a piece of me was like, dang, like I was like, dang, I really would have liked, you know, to experience that or to have that option of yeah, a manifestation of God. But they didn't have the Bible either. So it's like, yeah, you could have like, even though they had that cloud and fire, like guiding them day and night, they still, as soon as they saw Pharaoh, they was like, yeah, ignore the cloud and the fire and all of that. What I see now is Pharaoh. So I was like, wow. So God left us this whole book to tell us how we supposed to live our lives. And we like, in the beginning, nah, I ain't got the time. So, and I'd be like, dang.
well, here's the thing. So, like in the study notes at the bottom, it talks about they had the pillars, but God left us the Bible. First of all, King James got a little loose in these translations, and thousands of years later, some things just don't translate the same way it would as this pillar. A pillar of cloud and fire always means follows me. Like there's never going to be a.
It depends on your relationship still.
I'm just saying, if you know
Because
God,
you might be like, is this God or?
nah, blatant fire that's moving as I move is nothing but God.
No, because what's her name? Aurora. Aurora saw, you know who Aurora is?
No.
The princess in Sleeping Beauty. She also saw a flickering light and followed it. And her behind ended up permanently asleep. Eyes wide shut.
Light. That was dark magic.
Exactly. She couldn't tell the difference.
Yeah.
Her relationship with God must have not been.
I'm also saying that, like, imagine having the Bible's cool, but we've been walking through this book for 2 years and we only in the third book. I'm still living life daily. Like, so the pillar of fire and clouds would just be very, very helpful. Even not even if it's every day, but like once a week, maybe, just to be like, hey.
Hold on, because this is interesting. So what would this pillar of cloud lead you to? Would you be like, oh, because when you say this, I think about how I was led to be a teacher. That was super hard. Even if it was like I'm gonna have a whole video talking about that. It was so hard to leave my good government job and become a teacher, knowing all that came with that. And some of it I didn't know. I'm learning now. Like all that goes with that. And it's like, I clearly felt like this is what I was supposed to do years ago. Like I even filled out the application. It still was in there. It say 2009. Years later is when I actually like, oh, let me actually move in the pandemic type of situation. So what would a pillar of either fire or cloud lead you to where you're like, clearly, like, would you say if it led you to a man, would you be like, that's my husband?
All the above.
Really?
I'm gonna need it to lead me to a man.
What if it led you to a puppy?
It would not.
God.
God would not. God would not.
Israelite.
God, my God would never, as the kids.
If y'all have not figured
I
out,
was like,
I am the pet lover. Morgan is anti.
I would be like Sleeping Beauty and be like, those are yours. That's a demonic puff. Because now leading me to a dog. Yeah,
See,
so I
and
mean,
that's that choice that you still have to be like, dang, that because who was it? Jonah. Jonah had clear instructions on where he was supposed to go. God was with him. This man sat there in the boat rocking
right.
with other men.
Um,
Knowing he was supposed to be somewhere else because the Lord had already said it. Like God actually, now that's something different. Like I know, like the manifestation of God, but like the thunderclap voice and well, you know what? I never know. I mean, it could be high pitched, but like I heard like a roaring type of a voice
I'm like,
telling me to do something. It's like, but I feel like at times I hear it that clearly. Does it sound like? Does he sound like that? Not him. He actually, to me, to be honest, when I hear it, sound like me, but different. So it is sometimes. No, I don't think sometimes. I think it is based on like your prayer life and your relationship with how you get that clear signal thing that a lot of people were asking for, a physical something they see. Sometimes you really do like people like, oh, how would you know when Jesus come back? It's like, no, you gonna know. Like you definitely gonna know. No, you have never, you ain't seen him, but like you gonna just know. So to get that, I know that I know that I know, that's that relationship.
yeah, I'm
Going
just,
back to this book.
it is. I just think that would be super cool. But
Oh
again,
yeah, I
like
agree.
in this day and time, like we can't all just be walking around following a puff of smoke. So
That's what I was like. What about the other people? They probably was like, that ain't usual.
y'all see that?
Going with them.
I
Where they going?
y'all see that? Going this way. But the thing is, it's like, oh, I'm going with them, and they be like, sorry, no strangers. So now you roll up.
Right. No, you could have went, but you're not you're not about to partake in this cookout. You're not about to get invited to the cookout. But they probably could have followed the clouds and stuff.
Yeah. Um, and then another note I had was in thinking about like I had two forms of thought because it was like the Israelites, they had previously or from past down had some type of knowledge about God, his miracle. They knew about Abraham, they knew about their lineage and what and the place that God had. They had been in suffering for 400 plus years and now they're out. But they're out and they are, for lack of better words, because their faith has been so shaken, they are blindly following Moses and Aaron and just like if Moses and Aaron say it's whatever, that's what we doing because they got us here. And it just got me thinking about how sometimes when people are so broken, and that's how a lot of people get swept up in these, we'll say, cult type of religions because they're just so broken and they don't feel connected to God on their own. And so they're just looking for a person that seems to be so laser focused and seems to be so connected and can, you know, seemingly back up what it is that they're saying. And they just blindly like 2 million people follow two people in a puff of smoke. That's what happened here. A puff of smoke and two
I
people.
wouldn't call him.
I mean, I'm not saying
he was a blazing fire.
I mean, I get that, but when you get what I'm saying, though, it's like you just literally are walking. And is my next note? Oh, that's not my next note. Where I had a note in here, and we might not have gotten to it yet before they took their break.
Hold on.
They was walking for a month. I'm walking for a month behind a man that I don't even really know like that. Just last month, I was like, please don't speak my name because you're making me get beat and I'm having to do more work. And now I'm following you in the middle of nowhere. But again, we'll get there. Yeah, so I had that note about there about just the importance of like at what point during this journey did someone just say, God is doing so many cool things through Moses. I want to get to know him more. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to talk to him myself, or you know what I'm saying? Like, I want to get that. I don't want to just follow somebody else. I want to be connected as well. Like, when did they have that moment? And because it's not like they were completely novice to God, because again, they are the Israelites, they're the chosen people. Like they had some type of knowledge to him. They've been crying out to him for years. Also, 400 years to them was probably the equivalent of maybe like 10 to us, I would say, because of how long they lived back then.
Well, maybe
It's,
maybe they just respected the position that God had given to him. Like, oh well, we have been crying out, but obviously God talked to this man.
yeah,
Um, Not
but
like
they
they can
also
have their own relationship.
they did. I feel like they didn't have their own relationship because here's the thing. You know how sometimes um people like, oh, I don't know, like they crying out to God, like, oh, problem, problem, problem. And then God will tell you, don't worry about it. I'm gonna handle it or whatever. And then the person comes and you're like, I've been expecting you. I know I'm supposed to go with you. God told me that you were going to come and kind of help me. They didn't seem to have any type of, I don't want to say connection, but it talks about when they were talking about, they basically felt like God had forgotten about them. That's how much despair they were in during that time. They had just thought that God had completely forsaken them. So they were just so easily just able to like follow him, which isn't a bad thing because I mean Moses was who he said he was, Aaron was who he said he was, God, worked through them. But I think at some point, even just in going to church, like it's not enough to just go and show up and sit in the pews or the chairs every week after week and listen to the download that you're getting from the pulpit. Like, at what point do you say, let me crack open my Bible just off this cuff? Let me say a quick prayer, even if it's just, good morning, God, thank you, every single morning. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, something that kind of
Well,
like,
you definitely have to establish that relationship on your own and do your own due diligence because men are flawed. Even if it's a pastor, he may slip up and say something. Some pastor recently said that he was God. But I think that that was a slip of his tongue because I mean people
he meant like the
misspeak.
embodiment, like I am
All I know is that's what came out the man's mouth. But I mean, but
God.
you say stuff wrong all the time.
Yeah.
So, just, but people hold those particular individuals at such high regard. They're like, oh, well, maybe like it's not like God can't do whatever he wants to do. So maybe, so you do have to be careful with that. And that's why it's like, to me, it's amazing. It's not necessarily something that, like for them, their instruction is to pass it down in the future of your children, make sure they know what this means type of thing from verse 14. It's not us just passing it down. It's like, hey, and here's this book. You can read it for yourself. Like my son has like probably 5 different versions of the Bible to read on his own. Like go see what God said. And to be honest, my child has corrected me before. I was like, you know what? That is true. Look at my son reading. So I definitely feel like that's a necessity to have that relationship on your own, to hear from him on your own, especially if you want that cloud, but not actually, but like just internally, like that voice that's like, hey. And then again, I told you when I hear God speaking to me, it's a voice that sounds like mine. Not that I'm God, but it sounds like mine, like a familiar voice. But to somebody else, it could be that thunderclap, that it could be an action like, wow, every time this happens, this is how I need to move. Or this is how I know when I'm not close to God because this keeps happening. Whatever the case may be, everybody has their own relationship, but you can't approach it differently than you would approach any other relationship, to be honest. Like you can't be like, yeah, I love my mother. I talked to her. When was Mother's Day? Like
I disagree because
you cannot.
Some people need to love from a distance. I don't.
It's not God. God ain't one. God ain't one.
God
You
is
need to
not
love
one.
from a distance.
God ain't out here flagrantly being toxic.
All I'm saying is if you want a relationship with somebody, you have to actively have that relationship. You have to get up in here and go searching for the word that is speaking to your heart. You have to go pray. You have to read beyond the Bible, some commentary, speak to people with like-hearted, beliefs. All of that. It's a lot of work, but you put work into building your career. You put work into birthing a child. You put work into your relationship with other people. Is this not worth it in the same token? But to ultimately go along with what you said, I agree. I think, because I have never experienced this, but I think it'd be real dope if I walked outside and it was like flashing lights and arrows. It's like, this is the way, unless it's taking me straight to work. I was already on that path.
Even sometimes that would be helpful. Imagine like Why am I
avoiding traffic.
why am I detouring and you didn't miss the accident or you not in traffic? Sometimes even that is helpful. I'm just want to say that.
Oh
Okay.
yes,
'Cause
time spared.
you don't
Time.
even flick on your GPS so you see the slowdown. You're like, time in traffic, 15 minutes. Be upset. So sometimes the flicker, but it would just be too many flickers because like that was one flicker leading 2 million people. We can't each have our own different flicker. Like, huh? Now is this flicker gonna have my name on it? Because now I didn't went to the bathroom.
I think you're going too deep.
Not that I went to the two public bathrooms, y'all.
It would probably just be something that you yourself can see and nobody else can see.
But you go into the bathroom and everybody puffs of smoke and fires in there. Then you walk out and it's like, am I following the right one again? Like, oh, unless it's like Sims with the little. Anyway,
let's just let it go.
yeah. So that's what I just thought that I know a lot of us, we want to have clear physical signs. Sometimes we don't get those physical signs, and doing the work to get that relationship is how we will, have those blatant signs that we tend to look for. They ain't gonna be as grandiose though, unfortunately for us. But you gonna know.
Well, I did put like just my note on that is that when I first saw cloud, I was like, oh, because I love clouds. It's like, okay, cloud. And I was like, what was the purpose of the cloud? Like, I understand the fire because you need to light the way, but it's pretty lit during the day. But I was thinking like maybe like aren't they going through the desert? Like the cloud is shading them, maybe providing some kind of comfort as well as a guide and a cloud that you can see, during the day. So I was like, maybe it was more comfort and guidance with the cloud. Because I was just trying to figure out, like, clearly you need light at night, but during the day, you pretty good. So that was that note. And then my last note on that page, like I said, was that I see that Moses has grown a bit, like from the whole, every time we move, God, I got a question. Or are you sure, God? Type of thing. Moses was like, got it. All right, people, we doing this. And they was like, okay, Moses. So I was like, oh, okay. So some change has happened in him and his steps. That was all I had for 159. I mean, I highlighted some stuff. I highlighted if God does not lead you along the shortest path on your goal, don't complain or resist. Follow him willingly and trust him to lead you safely around unforeseen obstacles, like the GPS situation. Because that's when he was taking them across, leading them around Philistine territory. And I said, they're not about that fight life. And God knows. Yeah. Oh, and then I have still the faith of Joe. So Joseph Bones that they carry. So they was walking through the wilderness with the bones. That is 13:19. They swore that they would take Joseph with them when they left. So it's like, wow, Joseph like believed to that degree. Like, hey, I know one day this is going to happen. 400 and something years later is when it happened. And he was like, hey, one day when this happened, don't forget me. And for them to honor that, like, I was like, wow, like 400 and something, like 430 something years later. And they were like, oh yeah, Joseph. I was like, wow, like, did they have
like
to dig him out of the situation? So I was like, all right. So I thought that was pretty dope also. And then I'm on 160 with mine. Do you have anything on page 160, which is Exodus 14?
My major note was I just had, I said, these fair weather Christians. I was like, they giving me a headache. That's what I literally wrote.
Imagine God. Because we out here doing the same thing, just on it's not written, our story not written, but somebody watching us and like, look at Morgan, all the blessings, and then there she go. Like, she get a traffic ticket and she didn't lost it. She got to start over. So
they's all happy. They singing their praises. They free. And then as soon as things get a little rocky again, they back to man, Moses, you did this to us. Like, you should have just left us in. Like, they just snapped on my man. And he's like, first of all, thank you is what you mean to say.
But they was doing good
It was,
for a
yeah.
minute.
And I was like, that's us too. And then I thought about it. I sat with it and I was like, this is a traumatic response. It's like PTSD. Like, it's too good to be true. Um, because like we've been in this thing for 400 years. He wouldn't let us go. He would let us go. He said no, then he said yes, and he said no, then he said yes, and they finally said go ahead. And now we out here in the middle of nowhere, and you told us to camp out, and now look who here. Look who here.
Look who here.
Look who here. Like, they gonna kill us out here. At least before, we could have been comfortable, probably had some food, a couple more meals before, this all turned into a melee. And a lot of times I think we, like, when God is in the middle of bringing us out of situation, and even if there is something that doesn't go like perfect, like, it's never going to be just like, oh, you're delivered and it's a perfect situation. Like, yeah, there's still going to be obstacles even on your transition to better things. But if we are in our heads thinking, oh, this is too good to be true, like, how is God supposed to get our glory? Because the honest truth is there is nothing that is too good for God to do. So it's like, where is the faith? Like, if you are, as my notes say, if you are in it, be in it. Because I was like, I was sick of him. I don't know why I was so mad.
He was mad.
I was
I
like,
wasn't mad. I mean, I guess I wasn't mad because
I wasn't mad. I was just like, oh my
expected.
God, like, how many
It's
times do Moses have to
disappointing. It's disappointing. But yeah, and they like you said, like they went in. Like that's why I say they was talking out the side of their neck. It's like
I think that's what made me upset.
they cried out to the Lord and said to Moses, "Why did you bring us out here to die in the wilderness? Weren't there enough graves for us in Egypt?
Yeah.
What have you done to us? Why did you make us leave Egypt? Didn't we tell you this would happen while we were still in Egypt?"
So that was my issue. I think it wasn't that they had doubt, because I think doubt rises in all of us, when we're faced with different things. To me, it was, why you turn, what did this man do to y'all except try to help? Like, and he did what he said he was supposed to do. Like, he telling y'all he got y'all covered, and y'all, like, imagine. I know it can be aggressive when one person is snapping at you at work. Imagine 2 million attacking.
I'd be like, simmer down, simmer down, simmer down.
I see this staff.
Simmer down. But yeah, I never thought about it in the mass of 2 million people. But yeah, how discouraging it can be. But at this time, I think Moses was good. He was like, I didn't learn my lesson. The Lord, because he was like, don't be afraid. Just stand still and watch the Lord rescue you today. The Egyptians you see today will never be seen again. The Lord himself will fight for you. Just stay calm. Like, he ain't really say, hold on a minute. Let me go check with God. Like he did before. He was like, I'm here to tell you what it is. But that's like the hardest. That's what I said in my recap. It's like the hardest thing to tell somebody, hey, I know how you feel. Just stay there. Be still. Watch and see what the Lord do. Because we already know sometimes it don't happen like this. Sometimes the Lord be like, I'm gonna do it.
But you know what? Oh, I want to say yes, like you said. I think last page. I do really like that scene. Not scene, but the section really shows like Moses' growth and transition and his confidence now. Because when we go back to the beginning, when God was like, "Hey, I need you to do this," and he was like, "For me, wait a minute," and now he's like,
started that stuttering.
Yeah, he was like, "Y'all, ain't no problems."
Yeah, simmer down.
Like,
simmer down. But
you know what?
Some stuff is still about to happen.
He was like,
has a lot more to do. Like, Exodus ain't over.
Yeah, it's not over. But imagine, you know how sometimes I imagine this the situation. So imagine you work at a call center. You pick up the phone and you're like, it's a heavenly day. How are you today? And you got this loud person. They so upset. They like, no. I'm so sorry you feel that way. Relax, let me see what I can take care of you. And they put down the phone, and in the back, they like, oh my God, they like panicking on the inside and like having, but most was like, let me just go to the back and let me just go ahead and have a conversation with my man real quick. stay calm, stay calm. He
Yeah.
didn't pass it because that. I mean, to me, I would have probably been like,
Chill.
all right, now, God, you told me camp. We could have been at least another day out. You had me camp here. What we doing? And I
Yeah.
like God's response. He was like, I don't understand why you talking to me right now. You already know what to do, basically. He was like, why I have to step by step. It's like, I done told you what to do. You feel what you have to do.
I
Um,
said, I wrote the biggest move on my page. It says, there is a time to be still and a time to move.
he said,
Like,
tell the people to get on the good foot. Like, am scray, put the pep in the step. Um, and so I mean, well, you have any more? Because my summary was just like,
um,
sometimes when we feel like we're running from bad situations, and it's like it seems like there's no way out. You know what I'm saying? Because they were literally at the edge of a sea and faced with the Egyptians.
yeah,
So you're mentally you like, there's literally no place for me to go. This is it. I'm gonna die right here. How else is this gonna happen? Like that logically, that's what you think. But religiously, spiritually, God's like, don't even worry about it. I got you. Just keep moving.
that's how some people feel like in life. When you hear that diagnosis or when they come in the room and the white coat tell you something and it's just like, or they be like, yeah, so you didn't pass English. So I'm not walking. Like that right there, like certain words spoken to you, certain actions, certain things that you go through, you just be like, it's the end. Now there is definitely other people that have gone through it and God didn't necessarily deliver them from that, and that was a part of their testimony, and they looking at you like you gonna make it. Like I don't know how anybody else felt, but like my first time being pregnant and thinking like, oh my God, like no, like God, like what if my body don't do what you say it's supposed to be able to do? Like, what if I'm the one? And it's like, man, look at every person. They was born. Like they came out of somebody. Like
Look
this
at every person.
like it works. Like I'm telling you, it works. I built it with my own hands. It's one of the greatest things. Wars have been fought over it. It gives life. Yours will be okay. You will be fine. So I was like, all right, true, true, true. You know, many people have survived this. They have been okay. So it depends on your outlook on your situation as well. But I've never been at the edge of a cliff between me and the sea. Like what I'm afraid of and the sea on the other side, like unless you plan on telling me to swim this whole joint, it's I see it as a ending route. Like
Yeah.
I would be afraid also. So if you thought like this was my last chance to conceive and we did the sperm thing and this is the last, like I was watching Grey's Anatomy, this was the last of her husband's sperm and he died. You like this the last, like it's either this or nothing else, God. And then somebody like maybe drop it or something, like something crazy happened, or it just don't take you. Like, but you told me I was supposed to be pregnant. You told me that I was supposed to have my, so it's like when those things, because those things happen to people. Like you told me I was gonna get this job, and yeah, then you had creme de la creme come in there and steal my shine.
Look.
Whatever you want to call her. Her name is Creme de la Creme. She came up in there and was like, yeah, I got all the accolades. I got all the degrees. Matter of fact, the CEO is my cousin. You like, you in the waiting room like, thought this was going to be for me. But so you in all.
Also,
So
I don't even know what show this was, but the girl, I don't know if it was a movie or a show. All I know is, oh, it was Gabrielle Union. She had just moved to LA and she got,
and Mary Jane.
no, listen. I think it might have just been in her book and not on the show yet. She had just moved to LA and she was auditioning for this role. And so she was like, oh, she know her look. So she went for like this full Janet Jackson look. Like she went and got like the outfit, the all black outfit. She got her hair done like Janet, makeup. She even put like a little fake mole on her thing. Sitting, she get there. She's sitting in the, what is it called? The waiting room.
Mm-hmm.
And the secretary's like, oh, just 1 second. They're in there with someone and you're next. Girl, why? The real Janet Jackson walk out with the red
You can't nobody do Janet better than Janet.
She was like, I just felt so small. She was like, yeah, the role wasn't to be Janet Jackson. She just knew that that was the image that they were going for the role.
Was
And
she trying to be? She was auditioning for Poetic Justice.
I don't know. I think so. Some movie. I don't know what it was, but I can't remember the details. All I know is that the real Janet auditioned for the role too, and didn't have to go through all the get up. And so she in the waiting room, like, I'm ready. I done got my lines. I got the outfit. I got the look. I'm prepared. And then the original was already in there, and it was just like, she
Yeah,
is
that's crushing.
so horrible. Yeah, she's like,
Yeah.
I didn't. I don't even know if she said she went through with the interview or the
You,
audition.
I would have still did it and tried my hardest, but because you would never know. You just never know. They sometimes they're not looking for Janet.
Well, needless to say, she didn't get the role, but
Oh
she
dang.
did say that like years later, she face to face with Janet. They were in the club or whatever. And Janet like smiled and hugged her, and then she was like, she awkwardly brought it up. And it was like, well, I wasn't gonna say nothing, but you did.
I knew you weren't gonna get that.
What was that? So, yeah. But yeah,
Oh.
like sometimes there are gonna be sometimes when people do.
But that is what I'm saying. And Gabrielle Union is who she is.
Yeah.
So there's gonna be somebody else that's gonna have a situation like that, and they're gonna be crushed. And Gabrielle Union is like, that's a part of your story.
Yeah.
Like, you can do this. Like, yeah, you up against, the cliff and the sea, but I was there. God about to pull you through the situation. So I mean, some people even say when life is like hard like that, like get prepared, like get excited, like God about to do something amazing, like something you never seen before. And that's one of my notes is like, God made a way out of no way. Like there was no other way. Like he said he's like preparing them for like war, and they about to battle and this, that, like an army type of situation. It's like, well, what armies usually do when they back up against the water? Like what is the route next? Like, how do we get through this? No army is like, oh, I'm about to part the sea. Like this was not anything that anybody knew. And I was like, did Moses even tell them? And that goes like, sometimes you can't get every little step. Like God can't be like, this plan. So at 39, you're going to do this. And at 40, you're going to do this. And then that thing that you failed at, that's going to come back around. And you're going to be like this. It's like your reactions and your downfalls to how you should have reacted actually play into how things are supposed to go anyway. Like that's God's plan. Like it's perfect. So even when you act a fool or you act of less faith than you actually have, then it still goes into what was ultimately still supposed to happen for you. And I think that's amazing because, again, when I looked at that application and it said you already tried to be a teacher in 2009, and I was like, it's 2020. It's like 11 years later. So yeah, stuff like that happens. But that's the only notes I had. God made a way out of no way, and he made safe passage. Like it wasn't like he was like, yeah, hop, skip, jump, and carry the goats on your back and whatever. Well, did they even get to take goats? Like whatever it wasn't like, oh, this harsh thing. Now walking across the sea had to be scary and all of that in itself. But based on what they was facing, doing the impossible seemed real possible at this point in time. So that's another thing. Like when they say, like, I always be thinking, like, what happened? What was it? Alexander Bell who created the telephone? Was that him?
Yes.
Could you imagine him saying, like, I'm a business teacher, so, the business plan is everything. And could you imagine him pitching to his friends? So, yeah, what I want to do is talk to somebody that's not here. What you think? They're going to be like, there's a plant called a mushroom. Did you eat it? Like, because you're not supposed to eat that. You imagining things like, why you need to talk to somebody that's not here? We all here together. Why isn't this enough? So it's like, sometimes you don't even know like what you are capable of doing until you like, and then you're like, wow, I walked through the sea. Like there's the scene of that in the cartoon. Is it the Prince of Egypt? It's beautiful. Like you can still see the whales in the sea. It's just that nothing is touching them, and it's like wonderful. It's like almost walking through the aquarium in Atlanta because they have like the little dome thing and you can walk through. It's amazing. Well, the movie was amazing. I wasn't there, but I could imagine. So that's the only note I have until I get to my very last note when I was like, they couldn't grab no bread,
So
but they grabbed this.
they did grab bread. They didn't grab feast.
I mean, yeah, like they couldn't like
But
bake bread. They didn't have time to bake bread, but they had time to grab this particular item.
my only other note on here was at the bottom of 161, it just gives a little blurb about like the Red Sea and just how vast it was. So I think, I think the first time, even though I've seen like the stories of the Red Sea, and when we think of sea, like we think of this vast body of water, you're like, nah, ain't no way. It must have been like a river or like a canyon. But nah, this body of water they said was um 180
1,300.
miles wide. So not talking about the length, just the width. So think about, and it had to have been massive in order for 2 million people to make it through, make it across, and not some still be on the other side. You know what I'm saying? So it was huge. And then for the entire army of Egypt to be in there and swallowed up, it's just like that thing was huge. So to think about it, while you walking, you just like, please don't let these water walls break.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It had to be
Like,
scary and to still move. Like that's some faith right there. Like they show lack of faith, but when your legs lock up, like you always watch the scary movie and be like, run, and they be like stuck. You can't be stuck right now. Like move. You got stuff. You got it's timed, baby. This it's about to collapse. So I thought like to act on that, like we asking for if you gonna ask for that pillar, a cloud, and fire, you gotta walk through this sea too. You want all of the
I'm
shebang.
fine. If my pillar of cloud is leaving me, if a little light whisper, I'm like, if the little light whisper that sound like me is saying it, I'm like, did I get
I thought
enough
about
sleep last
Frozen.
night? Like,
But
wait
yeah, the cloud was there. The cloud and I think the cloud and the fire was there at the same time because it took a little bit. Like I mean, it's 180 miles.
Well, no, they said that the cloud and the fire got behind them to kind of like put a little space between them and the Egyptians. Um, while Moses was doing this thing.
Yeah,
So they were
until
there, but they were behind and moved from being in front of them to behind them to kind of give some space. So cool. Yeah, that was my
as
last
Johnson failed the current. All right, yeah, I see it in 1420. Um, do you have any other notes? My last note is on 15 in
just
the song.
they broke out in song, and I'm like, just
No,
35.
that's a whole hallelujah
Well, I'm
moment.
just saying, but a whole 35 seconds ago, they was probably about to throw Moses in the Red Sea. This probably gonna be the end. But before I go, you gonna get in this seat. And now they got a full song.
Well, see, they not even about Moses. Like you can't misunderstand and praise the person knowing that he following God. So direct all of that hallelujah to God because that was him that did it.
Well, no, I understand that.
Moses was just the messenger.
Yeah, but they was like, your God, your God got us slayed out here. So I was just like, yeah, but they broke out in song and dance and a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, is it like the first praise and worship song? Because we ain't in Psalms or nothing like that. So this is like the first. Ghost. I don't see no. Does it rhyme?
Sometimes when I see songs like written in the Bible when they be singing, I want to know like, did it sound like old, like what is that, the old rugged cross, or like this little light of mine? Like who picked the melody?
I want to know how they all knew these words because it ain't no repeating. It's like these real lyrics.
I think they took turns. You know how somebody just started, and somebody might.
So they had a whole freestyle battle at the end. All right. Well, the part that I was like,
or they did it like a row, row, row your boat, where somebody just started saying it, and then the next person would say it, and then that's how they changed it. I mean, because the song had to get through 2 million people, so by the time the first people said the lyrics, the back people heard the lyrics.
Shut up, Morgan.
Y'all know how row, row your boat. It's in lanes.
Okay. I know, but no.
All right. Don't ask
they sung a joyful noise to the Lord. But my point was in 1520. So this is Miriam, the prophet, like Moses's sister, Aaron's sister, Moses' sister, which we believe may be the same sister that helped him when he was in the basket and so on. It says that then Miriam, the prophet, Aaron's sister, took a tambourine and led all the women as they played their tambourines and danced. And Miriam sang this song. And I was just like, wow. They thought to grab the tambourines during the mass exodus. Like, it's like, hey, the Lord said we got to move. Hold on a minute. I got to get my tambourine.
It
And I
wasn't
was like, all right. Like, as if they knew eventually it was going to be something good. Like, eventually we're going to celebrate. So don't forget the tambourines, because we know good things are coming. That's how I took it. Like, wow.
I took
It's
it
not
like they knew they were moving and not coming back.
But they ain't grab everything.
They did. They just didn't grab the yeast, because yeast is loose.
They could have put it in a jar. All them jars in that house. They could have put some yeast in a jar, and they could have baked some bread before they left.
I'm just saying, too many people, ain't nobody grab the yeast.
Exactly. But they grabbed them tambourines.
Because the tambourines, they probably packed. Them those was probably packed. But as soon as
Aaron came, I'm gonna take it in my positive light that they knew it was gonna be some kind of celebration. Eventually, we're gonna be singing and dancing. So let me make sure I got enough for the party.
They bought it to like keep themselves busy. Like when you bored, they had no Kindle. They
did not think of, let me bring this because I'm gonna be bored. Because they dad gonna show up with a seed in the wilderness.
Tambourine. Yes, I would have bought my tambourine.
Well, they did. I would have bought my tambourine.
I would have bought my tambourine. I would have bought my.
All right, well,
what else?
To whoever, all the women had their tambourines, and I thought that was beautiful. I was like, look at them, thought to grab their tambourines during the mass exodus, like they knew they was gonna be celebrating, and I thought that was amazing. It's the little pieces of the Bible that make me like, oh dang, that's what's up. So it wasn't just song, it was like real music, like they were partying for real. So I thought that was, and rightfully so, because that was an amazing event. Like ain't nothing else happened like that past that. I mean, there was some big things that happened, of course, but I'm just saying, like, yeah, because eventually, there is a man that walked on water. So that's all for me. I don't have any other notes. I thought this was very interesting. Morgan said going forward, we will go through. So I'm thinking, you want to do the 10 Commandments? You tell me where you stopping, because this thing keep going on. Let me get ready to type it, because this thing sometimes don't let me type.
I don't know how. I mean, I don't know if we're gonna make it through all 10 commandments unless I do a summarization. I'm a shoot for it. I'm ambitious, girl.
I mean, you don't gotta take on more than you can bite.
The Lord will not give me more than I can handle.
Ooh, social responsibility. I like that.
Let's go through Exodus 24.
Okay, so we stopping on 175. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And before we get into the tabernacle instructions.
Okay, so 124:18. All right, let's update that. What this mean? Ow. I don't like it.
I like your ow.
Boom. All right, so that is it. So we will see you back every first Wednesday. We will be then read Exodus 15:22 through 24:18. And see what happens after this mass exodus. There is lots of other events that are about to happen. Some very unfortunate. So yeah. Bye, people. We get some outro music.
Is that it?
Is that not good enough?
We're still live.
Yes. It's my outro music.
I called the doctor's office earlier.